Welcome, dear readers, to Cover My House, where baffling books are reviewed but not read by yours truly. My name is Khaki.
And I'm Kay, and remember, we only judge a book by its cover.
And we find ourselves once more amid the towering stacks of your library, endless rows of books to nourish our minds and entertain our eyes.
We are in the fantasy section here.
We seem to always be.
It's the most accessible one. I mean, the rest is a little bit boring and dull, really.
And lined with bear traps, I've noticed. There's been at least a few incidents.
Oh, I'll have to talk to the gnomes about that one. They're not supposed to put them out in this time of year. They're not in season. It's like
bears?
Yes.
No, I'm going to have to ask about that one. What's the correct season for libraries? Library bears?
Yeah.
Libraries.
Libraries. From the end of August to the beginning of November.
Okay, so that gives me how many weeks to figure out how to... Okay, well...
August, you've got a few months left before we get there.
Before we move on to this week's book, I want to share with you another thrilling success story of yours truly, Khaki's adventures in your library. Mm-hmm. Because after I failed two weeks in a row to use the glue traps to trap a Velibraraptor...
Did you do a salmon run at the water cooler or something?
No, that sounds really good, but...
There's no salmon in the water cooler, so don't even start there.
Anymore, or...
Not that I've ever seen.
Is it seasonal? Like, what do the bears eat when they come?
That's a good question. I'll have to ask the gnomes. I mean, they're the ones who hunt them, so...
Long story short, I caught myself a Velibraraptor.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
What did you do with it?
I seem to have befriended it.
Oh, very nice.
I named her Guinevere. We're getting on quite well.
What are you feeding her?
We go hunting for bookworms together.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
She's very clever. Mm-hmm. I kind of use myself as bait, stomping around the usual things that attract bookworm, regular footsteps, until one of those eyeless monsters sets its sights on me, I guess via sonar or scent or whatever.
Well, they don't have eyes, so it has to be one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And as they come barreling toward me, instead of dodging, I stand still because Guinevere comes in from the side.
Yes.
Clever girl.
How do you stop her from eating them all and not sharing with you?
Since she mostly likes the lead cores and she does't mind what I do with the leftovers.
Oh, okay.
So I've been making some nice stews. And
how's the grilling going? How's your sauce coming along?
Well, mirin is not easily available here, but I make do. I have substitutes.
Remind me to bring you a bottle of next week and some soy sauce as well.
Oh, yeah. Which reminds me, could you bring me a bottle of mirin and some soy sauce next week, please?
A bottle of mirin, yes. Okay.
Speaking of library things, we have a book for our readers at home. What do we have this week?
It's a famous thriller by Oscar L. Fellows. Operation Damocles.
Operation Damocles.
The ultimate weapon is in the wrong hands, and you've got the entire plot of the book right there.
Yep. What we see on the cover is really quite ridiculous. It never occurred to me until I'm looking at it right now, because starting at the bottom, you have the White House, behind which you see the Earth.
Okay, the thing that bothers me about it most is actually... So we see the satellite here, the...
Here come the notes. Space Station Icarus.
Space Station Icarus, right, yeah. Shooting down on the White House in Independence Day style.
Yes.
But there's also a big sword on the cover.
Yeah.
And I can see where that is coming from, but it's like it's put there, like some editor went like, oh, people don't know what Damocles is, put the fucking sword on the cover.
And have it stab the White House so that they definitely know what's going on.
Yes, because the space laser, which is ridiculous because that's not actually in the book, but that's...
No, exactly. It wasn't a laser at all.
It's not, no.
I say, caressing my notes.
This is going to be one of those. No,
yeah.
See who gets it out on the...
It's a game of Snap.
We see who gets it out on the board fastest. It's like draw 4.
Reverse. What if this was literal, though? I mean, okay, here's a wild idea. What if we just imagine what a book was about based on the cover? Like, looking at this cover... Yeah, I know, that's insane. Imagine if it actually was, like, the White House had been moved to, I guess, the moon, or...
No, that's too far. It's too close up for the moon. It would be in low Earth orbit.
Depends where the photograph is shot from.
And how long a lens you use. Yes, of course.
Yes, the foreshortening and compression.
But I don't think that's possible to foreshorten the Earth that much from the moon.
No, but the camera person doesn't have to be on the moon.
I know you're the photographer here, but this is like...
And you play Kerbal Space Program.
I do, but there's no...
Are you familiar with the story of Damocles? Like the actual...
Damocles, yes. One of the messengers of King Dionysus, who was complaining that the king had it so easy and didn't have to do much work and just had to sit on the throne all the time.
Yeah.
And the king goes like, okay, like, well, why don't you try it then?
And they come and bring him feasts and succulent cuts of meat and delicious fruits while he sits on the throne.
And actually, when he walks up to the throne and he goes to sit on it, there's this big sword hanging over it by a silk thread. And he goes like, why is that up there? And the king goes like, well, so this is the risk that I have to deal with all the time.
The lesson being that those in power can never truly be happy.
Hence the sword. Yeah. Which is not even the correct type of sword.
It looks like a gladius.
Yeah. So it's too young for it. I mean, in order for this to be actually true, there have to be ice giants in the book or something, and I've not seen any ice giants.
Why would there have to be ice giants?
Look how fucking big the sword is. I mean, that you'd have to be humongous guy to like stab the White House with a sword that size, unless it's being foreshortened again.
Oh yeah, it could be dangled right. But in that case, the lens must have a crazy narrow aperture in order to keep all of that in focus.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Photography Tech Talk with Khaki. Hi everyone, this is your show within a show.
You're on the wrong podcast again, Khaki.
It might just be. I mean, don't you have those theoretical orbital kinetic weapons that are just a tungsten rod?
Well, in this book, there's nothing theoretical about it.
No, you touched the note. Yeah, yes, I do.
The note will come up later. I mean, like I said, there's no lasers.
Too slow.
There's no lasers in Space Station Icarus.
Yes,
it's basically loaded with a couple of dozen tungsten rods.
So loaded up with all of these tungsten swords of Damocles.
Yep.
Wow, I don't think we've ever resolved the cover this early on in an episode. Should we just call it?
It makes sense. The whole space station being put in low Earth orbit by the United States government, in what is or may not be a violation of the space treaty, but technically speaking, it's not a weapon. It's just a it's just.
Wasn't that the same thing where? I believe it was the Chinese government. Scuttled some of its own satellites just to display that it had the technology to do that.
They pissed off a lot of people because they created a big debris cloud with that. That was frowned upon by the international spacefaring community as being poor management, but it was just
a precious resource. Orbital space.
It was just
the scenario called where you could have a cascading failure. Like if there's a large enough debris cloud, it'll shred any other orbital things, and it's called syndrome. You know, like China syndrome.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know the exact name of it, but
resulting in a century of pollution of low Earth orbit. Prohibiting a century of spaceflight.
Exactly, yeah. It would be impossible to get up there. I mean, there is talk about cleaning things up, and there's like rules about
space scoop.
Yeah, and there's rules about having to deorbit your booster stages and stuff like that.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to geostationary satellites, that you have to have enough fuel at the end of lifetime to push it up into a parking orbit, so it clears out the geostationary orbit. And makes it, you have to be able to push them into a 300 kilometer higher orbit so that it leaves the geostationary orbit.
And that's called a parking orbit.
I think it's called the graveyard orbit, actually.
And that's just that's like an area that's okay for junk to be in.
Yeah. To save up the slots in the geostationary band.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Good spacemanship, I suppose the word for it is.
It's fascinating.
It is.
See, I love doing this show with you as much as it's educational and informative to our readers at home, where they get these books recommended to them by us. I continue to learn from your vast stores of expertise.
Yeah, well, useless trivia is my forte, so...
As your library demonstrates.
So, back to the story, shall we?
Yes. I loved how everything in Operation Damocles was referred to by code name.
Yes.
So we had the space station Icarus, and we had our hero Team Thebes, and I loved that. Obviously, all on a very strong theme. The team of FBI agents, codename Team Thebes.
Yes.
Although I did notice that, I don't know if it was, I did notice that all of these code names were preceded by a descriptor. So you had Operation Damocles and you have Team Thebes, rendering the code nearly pointless. Like they reference to the president of the United States was President Dionysius.
Right. Well, yes.
So it's not really hard to guess. Or Space Station Icarus. Like, why give it a code name
if you're going to say put the descriptor in there? I think that's just an affectation of the writer, Mr. Fellows, who is just people don't know these things. I have to keep reminding them, and Or maybe he just thinks it sounds cool.
I appreciate that. And it does sound cool. Space Station Icarus, and well, I mean, he did run into a little problem where he ran out of Greek knowledge because, like, it was the rocket Icarus that brought it up there, which was...
It's not mentioned at all what kind of rocket it is.
Because all of those details were classified.
That too. I mean,
so you could only know the secret code name and the fact that it was a rocket or a space station.
Yes.
But not what it's for or where it is.
No, well, it's up there. And
space.
It's hard to... considering the size of it, it's quite easy to track. I mean, you can even track it with an optical telescope, as is demonstrated.
Mark 1 eyeball. Oh, yes, that's right. Because it's discovered by...
Martin Jumbo Hoover.
Martin. Yeah. Good old Martin.
He not only
Jumbo
spots
Hoover.
the space station, but also notices that...
the enthusiast astronomer...
who spends his night times out in the cold, huddled up in his fleece jacket, peeking through his various telescopes, trying to track this new thing. I mean, he hears of the launch, and like... Just the launch can give you a lot of information about the final orbit that something's going to be in, and there's lots of radio amateurs who love to do that kind of thing, like calculate orbits and try to spot the things. And he manages to spot the thing on the
on his telescopes, regrettably never catching the interest of his grandchildren, whom he'd sincerely hoped would be interested in joining him out in the cold and spending some time with
funny that
Grandpa.
They didn't. That kids are not particularly interested in that sort of thing.
Just sitting in the cold in the dark,
like watching this little
hours.
speck move through the eyepiece of a telescope,
and writing down numbers. No granddad.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm off to play Pac-Man like cool kids.
Going to the Pizza Hut to play on the
mall.
Play the video games.
And I'm going to do that. The Breakfast Club knee dance with all of my friends.
It beats Fortynite dances, but I guess it's like...
Fortnite dances.
Fortnite, that's the one. Fortnite.
No, Fortynite. Fortynite is what we call it.
I don't know what the young people call that these days.
They probably call it a video game Hephaestion. I said... looking at my notes and noticing that it said Commander Hephaestion, who is, of course, the leader of Team Thebes. Now,
also a code name again, because there's not that many Greek people working for the U.S. government.
Yes, they're FBI agents. They're
just using basically the FBI as their cover. They get sent to wherever it is needed, especially when it turns out that the control of the station is lost.
Ah, yes, because of the theft of the absolutely crucial microfiche. This was the 80s.
Back then, even then, microfiche technology was rapidly going out the window. But
yes, but apparently Mr. Fellows didn't know that yet. He also didn't know that a microfiche is really just a little translucent slide that
Yes.
An extremely, what's it called? A shrunk down copy of a page or a newspaper.
Well, it's basically a photograph. It's something. It's photograph.
Why did it take me so long to find the word photo?
I was going to say it's photographed material at very high resolution and shrunk down very small. After that part in the story, we go to the Yugoslavian mercenaries who managed, in a daring raid, hijack a Soyuz capsule from Baikonur. Fly it up to the station. So the Americans at this point, of course, think that the Russians are launching this thing and trying to attack their station. When in fact they're
the Russians, of course, deny everything, but they always do.
Oh no, we were going to launch this thing to our own space station, and Mir is still up there at this point, of course. So yes, the Yugoslavians hijacked. Which I
believe means both Earth and peace, depending on.
Does it?
Yeah, I think it has
my Russian isn't very strong.
A dual meaning.
It was a good choice then. A good choice of names. They ride the rocket up to the space station. There's a quick but decisive battle in their favor.
Yeah, it sort of reminded me of Moonraker. Like, for some reason, the occupants of Space Station Icarus donned their exosuits and they came out with little laser rifles. It's like a really inefficient way to hold a space battle, though.
It is. I mean, it's very... how to put it?
Stupid.
Well, there's that. I was going to say cinematic. It's a very cinematic way to hold a space battle. But
to have like space infantry that's floating with no maneuverability, just holding rifles.
They've got the little rocket packs.
Can you imagine riding one of those? Like, how would you stabilize yourself?
Yeah, lots of practice. I mean, I think it was in the 90s that they actually tested one of those backpacks for suits, and one of the astronauts floated a few hundred meters away from the space shuttle in it. They said
was he tethered?
No, he wasn't. It was actually free flight.
Whoa!
The first
what a magical experience
he went for
that must be.
It was quite a. You can see what's that Sandra Bullock movie again? Gravity.
Gravity, yes.
Except he's just flitting around like an idiot. That's absolutely...
George Clooney's just having fun. Woo!
Yeah, it was a ridiculous representation, but
all this spare fuel that we have, propellant.
Yeah, but it's also, you don't fly that fast. Even if you could, you wouldn't fly that fast close to the space station. You'd get your ass kicked.
I have a question. Does one of those rocket backpacks, does that count as a spacecraft?
Ooh,
I mean, you are its passenger, aren't you?
Yeah, well, you're its operator, so I suppose so.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it would. I mean...
It doesn't have a canopy, it's not enclosed. Well, then your spacesuit? Like, if it's attached to your spacesuit?
Well, it is. Well, you're strapped into it.
Yeah.
So it's, yes.
So that counts. So, yes, decisive victory by the Yugoslavian mercenaries.
Yep. We'll then proceed to Rodham. They drop one of the rods, and it's...
oh, no!
Yes, it goes down screaming, and they actually managed to drop...
you wrote down a note that said rod.
Rodham, yes. We're going to Rodham.
Yeah.
They drop down a rod outside
Washington. That was
Washington.
their catchphrase, let's Rodham.
Exactly. They drop down one of the roads in the empty areas outside Washington, D.C., so it's not actually zapping down the White House as it's depicted on the cover.
No, not yet. They wanted to make a threat.
And that's one of the good things about these things. It creates a nuclear level
it's
boom
a massive impact.
Without actually creating the fallout. So it's actually a really good weapon to
and an
use.
Instrument of terror.
Yeah, you can barely see it coming. You've got even less warning on it than you do on an ICBM attack, especially because you can barely see the launch. I mean, I suppose you can get
because it's inert.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose you can get it on radar, but yeah. Well, yeah, but even then, I mean, it'll leave a plasma trail coming down, but by that time, it's far too late to do anything about it.
It's way too fast.
Yeah.
What's the travel time?
Well, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. So, since the space station is running at...
I'm going to tell Kerbal Space Program that you don't know that off the top of your head.
Well, okay, so...
What the travel time is of an object dropped out of geostat?
It's not in geostat, it's in LEO.
Oh, pardon me. I thought I knew a space thing and that I'd impressed you with it, but no.
Lower Earth orbit. So it takes a capsule about half an hour from the moment they do their deorbiting burn, which takes about 15 minutes. Then it takes another half an hour to 45 minutes before they're on the ground.
We have a weird planet.
It is very...
We have a weird wobbly... Not quite round, or not quite spherical.
It's oblate spheroid.
An oblate spheroid. Oh, it's my precious oblate spheroid.
It suits us very well.
Yeah. I'm reminded of The Tick, where some maniacal genius, I think also with a space weapon, tells him that he's going to destroy Earth, and the Tick goes, "Earth? No! That's where I keep all my stuff."
Well, yeah. It was like this friend of mine who claimed he has the world's largest seashell collection. He keeps it on the beaches. After taking control of the space station, killing all the American astronauts on it. That's the word I was looking for, thank you.
Yeah.
They install some sort of override system on it. There's like a bunch
of the microfiche.
Yeah, well, they needed the microfiches to get the plans so that they knew where to attach their alligator clips on the inside of the.
I just think that Oscar Fellows didn't know the difference between a microfiche and a microchip.
Well, that's possible.
I just think maybe he didn't know.
Well. There's a scene where they're pulling panels out of the from this on the inside of the space station, looking for the place where they need to connect their little override computer type thingy, which is designed to make sure that there's going to be some sort of input that the Americans won't be able to take control of it from the ground, and they can only do it with their highly encrypted communication.
Well, that's why they had to have physical access to the space station Icarus, because the targeting system was it was hard coded with eligible targets. Like it could only launch over a particular number of targets. Yeah. Kyoto, Moscow, St. Petersburg. Yep. All the typical Cold War targets, like prohibiting that weapon from being used remotely
against themselves,
against the Western Hemisphere. So it required
they either have to be on station and physically launch the things at the right time, or because they wanted to not stay up there, get back down again.
Add their own targeting computer with its own hardware enforced targets.
Exactly. So that they can, and of course it has to be encoded so that only they can issue the commands and it doesn't get overrun. I mean, of course the Americans will launch a rocket and get back up there, but in the meantime, You can even threaten them. If you try to launch that rocket, if we see you
then we'll destroy
Vandenberg or Cape
Delaware.
Delaware. Nobody likes Delaware.
That's a mean thing to say.
I don't even know where Delaware is, to be honest.
No one does. It's one of those secret cities that no one goes to.
And yeah. Okay. So
codename Delaware.
As the hijacked Soyuz capsule tears away from the
hijacked space station Icarus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It goes down, and a mad scramble on the ground ensues. Various agencies sending
their best and brightest
to the projected location of where the thing's going to land.
Where the Soyuz capsule is.
Because they want to get the Soyuz so they can take their codes and regain control of the station.
So they send their crack team of FBI agents, Team Thebes, led by Commander Hephaestion, and we have who do we go? Agent Patroclus, Patroclus, I think that's pronounced, who's our hunky, square-jawed hero. He is also the driver of Vehicle Bellerophon. Vehicle Bellerophon, which I did not... The description left something to be desired. I was going to say the description left something to the imagination. It left all of it to the imagination. I don't know whether Vehicle Bellerophon is wheeled or whether it's a helicopter. Like they talk about the entire team can take Vehicle Bellerophon. Like it's not even described whether it has a canopy or an inside. So it could be like a giant multi-tandem motorcycle. I just don't know.
Sounds unlikely, but
they never talk about like roads or traffic lights. They just climb into Vehicle Bellerophon and then they arrive.
And they head over to Camp Sandyballs.
You notice the theme running through these code names.
This isn't the code name. This is actually the place. It's one of those wooden lodges on the lake.
Is this really a place? Do you know about a place called Camp Sandyballs?
Maybe.
You have an honest face. So
right. So Camp.
Usually when people think of a fanciful name for a camp, that's like, ooh, it usually it's like Camp Wanna-Hockaloogie or Camp Wanna Get Out of Here. Yep. But not Camp Sandyballs.
Camp. Actually, another famous one is Camp Kimosabe. That's what what Kimosabe in the Lone Ranger was named after.
He was named after a.
Yeah, it was just one of the writers or one of the directors had remembered the summer camp that he used to go to as a kid, and decided that was going to be a good name for.
Because the idea of doing any research into anything related to the Native Americans, we know enough.
Back then, that was not the thing.
We'll just name him after a wow. Yep. Because there are so many cool names. There are so many. I recently learned this is cool. I recently learned a little bit about the Navajo language and how obviously the Native American languages are very foreign to my ears. Like they don't share roots with the European languages via Proto-Indo-European. So they're nothing like any of the languages that I know. This goes for most languages in the world, of course. But I was fascinated by their verb groupings because apparently Navajo is verbs do most of the heavy lifting, and the verbs are classified based on the properties of the objects that they referred to. So you have SFO verbs, slender, flexible object verbs, verbs that are related. So you have
reeds, arrows.
Yes, exactly. And you have that's entirely fair. You have like firm objects that are heavy. You have animate. Nice, great. We are never getting out of this explicit rating, are we? Although you could just say penis. A penis is a thing. You don't have to.
A lot of people have them.
Yeah. The animate objects, which I think Klingon does it well. The Constructed Language by Mark Okrand. It has these suffixes and has a special suffix for any object that is used as a weapon or any object that is alive and capable of speech. But so, like, the Navajo doesn't have a word for to give. They have 11 verbs because it depends on the thing that is being given.
Oh, great. One of those languages.
To describe the action. And it's just such a rich diversity in organizing the universe and prioritizing the properties of the things they're in. So, Mr. Fellows, when he created all of these things, so everything has to have a fanciful code name, including Camp Sandyballs, and you said that this is an actual camp, like a summer camp.
I'm pretty sure that Mr. Fellows just took a...
No, maybe he'd been there himself. Maybe it was just like the writer of the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, could well
be.
He
had fond memories of Sandyballs.
Yes, well, some of those lake shores. I mean, you know what happens when the sand gets into your swim trunks.
I shave, so...
I don't think I've been into one of those places. No, it's actually not true. We went there a year or two ago. Remember, out on the beach? The beach that we have here in...
we had a beach day.
Yes.
It may shock you that was 5 years ago.
It was 5? Oh,
yeah. I know that because I was shooting with a Canon 6D and the Sigma 35mm f1.4 art lens, which I've sold since then. I have, readers at home, I have a photographic memory, which means that I remember things based on, I remember the EXIF metadata of the photos that I took there. And since my photographic career started in April 2011, before that is literally prehistoric to me. I have no idea what happened or who it was. But after that, I have a photographic memory.
Right. Back in Camp Sandyballs.
Yeah.
There's the show-off starts between Team Thebes and some other agents, which are...
Yes, the competing rival intelligence agencies that all have their wires crossed. And,
yes, nobody knows what they're doing.
The left hand doesn't know what the right hand...
It turns into a three-way fuster-cluck with Mr. Black and Rogers on one side.
Boris Black and Mike Rogers, yes, who are with the...
Completely unclear.
ATF?
We don't know who this is. They just show up, and Team Thebes immediately makes them as being obvious agents because their cover is woefully inadequate.
Yeah, because they're trying to do the 21 Jump Street thing, except they're
30s.
Yeah, they're unshaved 30-something men who are pretending to be
college students who are on spring break.
Yeah, but they their Q branch has not prepared them effectively, so they have T-shirts with, what's a good music band that someone who grew up in the 70s would think was still cool in the 80s? How are we going to construct this reference?
Oh.
There's a lot of layers to this.
Yes.
Grateful Dead?
Oh, I was completely out of the music scene back in the 80s. I was not interested.
And I was 5, so...
Well, okay.
We all have Madonna.
Madonna was still pretty hot. I mean, Prince was very hot. Well, you know what I mean.
They show up with, hello, we are teens, and Team Thebes, and Agent Patroclus
immediately makes them as, okay, these are not the people that they claim to be. And it turns into a bit of at the wine and cheese buffet that's being held in the evening at the
this sounds like an awesome summer camp.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's fantastic.
Where do I sign up?
It's there comes the maneuvering and the trying to feel out who everybody is, and
the posturing.
Absolutely.
It's actually kind of a fun scene because everybody gets in on it. The rest of Team Thebes really come into their own where they try various strategies.
Well, yes, but Boris, for some particular reason, is female. It's not clear why Mrs. Black is called Boris, but it might be some, again, fuck up by Q brand.
It's cooler than Doris.
It says Boris on your ID. It says female. It must have been a misprint, but we have to go with this.
No, they just printed a real name, Doris Black, and then just Sharpie the D into a B.
And that's now all right.
Well, and she's Boris is the counterpart to Agent Ifis on Team Thebes, who is obviously a woman in a moustache.
Yeah, then they end up in the closet behind the bar making out and trying to get the intoxicating lipstick onto each other.
Oh, yeah, they're having a great old time. And
it's
both of their immunities are being tested.
Well, both have taken their antidote, but they're only to their own stuff, not to the other stuff. So after a while, the rest of the team wonders where their two agents are gone and finds them passed out in the closet. Half undressed, of course.
And tripping balls because this interaction of two different paralytic poisons and two different antidotes has some fun consequences. They're having a great time.
It's like LSD all over again.
LSD all over again. So yeah, they're found by the other member of Team Thebes, Agent Patroclus B.
They ran out of names.
Apparently they ran out of names. He has a bit of a friendly rivalry with Agent Patroclus, and it's more than friendly, right? Hey, is it just me, or is this book super gay?
It is a bit.
Super duper gay. We have Agent Ifis and Boris Black both of them cross-dressing women finding each other's arms with their fake mustaches stuck to each other's forehead.
Not something that you would have thought from a man called Oscar L. Fellows, but apparently he was like...
But maybe like the microfiche, maybe he just didn't realize.
Could be. It's like maybe he's like, I mean, this is the 80s. Homosexuality was becoming more and more mainstream.
Maybe, but
it's
like none of the agents seem to realize that they're named after super gay and queer things.
Just,
like IFIS. Like that was the story of a poor couple who had a baby, and they were terrified that it would be a girl because they couldn't afford a dowry.
Yeah.
And so when the mother gave birth to a girl, they named her Iphis, and her sex was hidden from her father, and she was raised as a boy. And then eventually a goddess turned her into a boy after she'd fallen in love with she fell in love with Ifania, but she knew she couldn't marry because she was a girl, and then a god just fixed that. Like super duper
sounds
queer.
Very Greco.
Yeah,
it's the kind of thing that would happen a lot.
In my preparation, I did have, I must say, some difficulty finding lesbian things in Greek myths.
They have a whole island full of them.
No, it's just called Lesbos. It's just, I mean,
thought that was always.
But in the myths, like they're not a Sapphic. Lots and lots of male lovers for Achilles and Hercules.
Right.
I would have a lot more. Like I had Agent Iolaus and Agent. But yes, they're found in the closet by Dr. Paracelsus, and finally revived. And I guess then they join forces. I mean, what?
Well, there's a fight over who gets to take the ATVs from the shed at Camp Sandyballs. Yes, I'm going to say Sandyballs as often as I can.
I support and embrace my co-host. Yes, Sandyballs.
It turns into a mad chase down the logger roads in the forest, trying to head down for the spot where the capsule landed. With
this other team on their all-terrain vehicles and quad bikes and...
Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't got the Air Force in there with a few helicopters, but, spot the capsule as it comes floating down and see where it lands in situations. But
NASA did send aircraft Icarus because they ran out of names, didn't they?
Clearly. I think it was a converted C-130 that they had, the ultra-short runway one that they built for the eviction of the, what they wanted to use for the Iranian embassy hijacking.
Oh, wow. They built a special aircraft for that.
Well, it was a C-130, and they equipped it with JATOs, jet-assisted takeoff things, but they also retro rockets. For landing, so that they could. I think the plan was to land it in a stadium, and just land it there, and then just like the moment it hits, like hit the retro rockets and fire off. And I think that's what they were doing. Of course, the actual original crash landed when the pilot on one of its test runs when the pilot hit the retro rockets, like when it was still 2 meters above the ground.
Oops.
Yeah, that was a bit of a snafu.
Yeah.
And it was never actually used, but the design, there's just photos of it. It looks fucking wicked.
Yeah.
It's got these like flash out things, which like they click out and then they've like rockets firing off, and it's like.
You're making really cool gestures, by the way, for the readers at home. The gestures that he's making are fantastic. Yes, listen to this airplane that we're showing you.
We're not showing it on your podcasting device, which is actually you've not mentioned the cover. No, right.
Oh, this is the second time in a week. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry to our listeners at home. We've been so obsessed with our notes that I've been. Well, no, I mean, it's still there. So for the readers at home, if you look on your podcasting device, like about 20 minutes ago, hopefully, then you should be seeing the cover of today's book. And if not, check out the show notes for an image and a link.
I'm sure you can edit that in somewhere else where where it doesn't belong.
Yeah, but then it'll be inexplicable why I sound so dejected.
Oh, that's right.
This early on in the episode, why I sound like I've failed our beloved readers at home.
Well,
so
it turns into the big show off, shoot off in the woods. People grab
Agent
the
Patroclus
things.
and Patroclus B are in vehicle.
The Yugoslavian mercenaries get killed off. Agents Black and Rogers manage to snatch the code device, and it turns into a mad dash through the woods yet again, ending in a big crash on the motorway until the Team Thebes, and in their heroic action, manage to gain back control over the device.
And it's finally resolved, and so they take the device back to their headquarters at location Icarus. Yeah. Location Icarus,
they take vehicle Bellerophon
vehicle
back.
Bellerophon. Oh yeah,
I'm sure. I'm surprised they didn't call it Icarus as well. It's almost like a theme running through the book.
They had aircraft Icarus,
right? Well,
you can't name two things. Then it would have to be vehicle Icarus B.
Well, there's a precedent.
Now, we're approaching the end of the book, and I can't help but notice that you still have two notes on the board.
No.
One of them's blank, and one of them says president. Okay, so we can just crumple those up and toss them out with the rest, and then we'll. I guess. Yeah. I guess it's time for me to place my last note.
Put the final note down.
Put the final note down because
game set and
the
match.
Yugoslavians. Yeah, it turns out that the tungsten rods weren't the only thing stationed on space station Icarus. They left an additional weapon there, knowing that they'd be intercepted because they knew that they were going to crash land on American soil. And so what we see depicted on the cover is the launch of the Copulin bomb.
The Copulin bomb, yes. Why don't you tell our listeners what the...
So many times you've put a note on the board that you expect me to support, and of course that's what I'm supposed to do. I support it. We read the same book.
I don't know what the fuck a copulin is.
No, right?
Okay.
I know you don't. It's also known as the gay bomb or the puff bomb.
Right.
The hypothetical chemical weapon that was supposed to demotivate enemy combatants by turning them gay.
Homosexual and turning the trenches into fuckfests.
Yes, exactly. So the Copulin bomb goes off, and nobody feels any different.
Considering what was going on between Boris Black and Agent Ifis, that's the one,
and Patroclus and Patroclus B. I think it was just a gross miscalculation on the part of the Yugoslavians.
Well, the thing, what does happen. When the same material which was left on the space station, they decided to deorbit it, breaking up in a wide swath over the United States, creating what forever afterwards will be called the Gay Belt, running from North Dakota in a southeastern direction towards the Florida coast.
That's right. And that's why San Francisco is now a ghost town, because all of its queer population has moved from, what did we say, North Dakota
to the Florida coast.
To the Florida coast. Wow.
Wide swath across.
Fun bit of canon for our loyal readers at home. Yes, as we all know, that's the gay belt in the United States of America. The first to legalize gay divorce. Which, interesting factoid, gay marriage was legalized before gay divorce. We're not making light of anyone who's going through relationship troubles. We have to say that as a legal disclaimer from our
from our legal department, which is currently napping on the couch.
Yeah, she's been very good, by the way.
Yes, it's because it's not dinner time yet.
No, and she seems to be enjoying the company of Guinevere.
Guinevere sure is enjoying the company of our little librarianess. Cold-blooded, warm-blooded.
The little librarianess certainly seems to be enjoying her rich plumage and beautiful colors. It's got to be such a tragedy, because you mentioned that the Velibraraptors are colorblind themselves, but they're such colorful animals. All those spiky horns and feathers,
tiny little bursts of color running down the corridors. Maybe we should see if we can promote their breeding
Keep your hands off my Guinevere.
Well, I mean,
she is no one's hussy.
It'd be great to get the bookworm population under control. It's like if we have more Velibraraptors.
Leave it to me and Guinevere. No, leave it to us.
Okay. I'll make sure to bring the soy sauce and the mirin next time so you can get working on your marinade.
Yes, thank you very much.
I rememred.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Let's see if you remember next week.
Well, let's see about that. All right. Speaking of next week.
Oh, no. We've got to do the other thing first.
Oh, we have to rate the book.
Yeah,
yes, we have to rate the book.
What's a good Greek number?
Ooh, Greek.
69 out of 60.
Yes.
Yes.
Out of 69.
Out of 69. How do we rate it out of 69? Or maybe is this more Athenian or more Spartan?
Ooh, I'd go for Athenian.
Yeah.
There was very little Spartan about the book.
Oh yes, you're right. You're right. It was quite gaudy and overwrought.
Yeah, no, I mean I liked it. It was a good. It was a thriller. No, what's the word?
Thriller.
No, well, detective. What's his face style?
Clancy
style. That's the word I was looking for. Clancy style.
Clancy.
What do you call those books again?
Novels.
No, I mean the style is the kind of book. The story.
It is a thriller.
Yeah. Where American three-letter agencies play a big role and do their heroic things in keeping the world and America in particular safe from evil well, Yugoslavian mercenaries in this case.
Yeah, from rock-hard space rods and gay bombs.
Yeah, into like the unsuspecting American countryside, patriotic countryside.
Yeah.
That's the one we're looking for.
So now we've got to think, like, out of 69, I mean, what's a gay number that's lower than 69? What can we think of? There's got to be something.
I mean, the classic one is 68. It's like, I get a blowjob and I'll owe you one.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll call this a 68. Yeah.
68 out of 69. There we go.
One of these days we'll release an episode without a big red E on iTunes. One of these days. I swear to God, we're going to get there.
Today is not that day.
Maybe next week.
Right, next week.
Speaking of next week.
Yeah. We're going to have next week book. Next week's book.
Yes. No, okay. Tell us about we gonna have next week book. Let that be our slogan from now on. We gonna have next week book. We can do it in funny accents. It can be.
We're gonna have next week book. Yeah.
Nous avons prochaine semaine livre.
It's gonna be good. It's Reginald Bakeley's book. Goblin Proofing's One's Kitchen Coop and other practical advice in our campaign against the Fairy Kingdom.
Oh my God, this sounds so useful. Guinevere, come here. I found a home for you. Come on, give me that book. We're gonna make a new coop.
I don't have it with me, but it's up on shelf 3 in section
I'll find
B.
it. Get me the zip lines. Here we go.
All right, zip on off, Khaki.
We forgot to do the sign-off. We're already do the cute. And that about covers it. Thank you for joining us. Cover my ass. We're baffling books are reviewed, not read by yours truly. My name is Khaki.
And I'm Kay. Remember, we only judge a book by its cover.